Nazca, the place of the ancient Nazca civilization. In Nazca, we are going to take the flights to see the world-famous Nazca line. Besides, we are also going to visit some interesting archaeological sites.
Seeing the world-famous Nazca lines has been one of our lifelong dreams. And we're about to do exactly that, starting from the small airport next to the present-day town of Nazca.
We are now in Nazca and we are going to see the Nazca line now. And the best way to see the lines are from above. So we will take the flight, completing the registration, and we are ready to go.
Since we're flying on a very small plane, we apparently need to be weighed to ensure a balanced load on the plane. Now that the formality is done, let's head to the plane which had been waiting for us on the runway.
Everything is ready and now we are going to take the flight.
It was just a tiny propeller plane, right? With only enough space for the pilot, co-pilot, and 2 passengers. Here we go! Taking off to observe the mysterious gigantic lines from the sky. Honestly, it was probably one of the bumpiest plane rides we've ever experienced. A piece of advice: skip breakfast before the flight. Soon enough, the pilot shouted because we were approaching the first Nazca line. Do you see anything there? Let me show it to you better like this. It's a whale! These lines have puzzled experts since their modern-day discovery, with nobody really knowing what they are for or how they were made by the Nazca civilization some 2,000 years ago. Now let's look for more lines. Do you see the astronaut there? It's cool, right? The lines can sometimes be a bit hard to spot, but look carefully enough and you'll see the monkey over there. The shaking plane made the line spotting even harder as well. Do you see the dog over there? On this hill lies one of the most iconic shapes of the Nazca lines, the colibri or the hummingbird. There were so many more shapes that we could see from the sky. It's inconceivable how the Nazca people back then would draw something so big, sometimes measuring more than 100 meters without even being able to fly to see the full picture. What's more, new lines keep being found year after year, and experts believe that there are so many more to be found on this vast plain. It was such a mind-blowing experience to see the enigmatic Nazca lines, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Peru. And now, let's go back to the solid ground because there are more interesting places to be explored around Nazca, starting from the lost city of Cahuachi with its impressive pyramids. We are now in Cahuachi. This is the ruin of what's regarded the capital of the Nazca culture. We are here with Señor Elvert, our guide for the day.
Let me tell you a bit about this Nazca civilization. So Nazca civilization was established around 2,000 years ago. It's a civilization older than Inca but younger than the Paracas. Well, now we are in this place and this is considered as a sacred place. At least the hypothesis said so. And the hypothesis was this place is it's a place for important people like the priests, and also in this place they are probably doing some rituals for their god. So this place was considered as the most important place or the most sacred place because in this place you can recharge your energy. So if you are sick or so, people used to come here and they kind of get their medicinal energy here.
You probably wondered why such an important place is built right in the middle of the desert. And actually, that's because there's a river over there as a source of water. And behind the hills over there are the Nazca lines, the famous Nazca lines. Those factors made it an ideal place to build something important here.
We are now in Necropolis, and this is the place where they found a lot of mummies. And in the ancient time, when people die, people were buried in the sitting position and also wearing their possessions, like the mantles, the jewelries, the food, everything. And this is where they found it.
We're gonna see more tombs and mummies at the next site. Cahuachi was surely an interesting and breathtaking site that is still being continually rediscovered. Our next stop is just as intriguing as the previous one, the eerie Chauchilla Cemetery.
We are now in Chauchilla, and this is the place for pre-Inca tomb or the tomb of the Nazca people. And behind me, you can see that in each box there is a tomb.
This ancient burial ground is clearly a victim to its own treasure. Around 100 years ago, a lot of people came here to look for mummies and to take their possessions. So, a lot of grave diggers, tomb raiders, Indiana Jones. No Indiana Jones. I wasn't joking because this cemetery was featured in the movie Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Fascinating indeed.
It's interesting to see that these people were buried in the sitting position, as I have mentioned before. And it's also interesting to see that these people were buried positioned against or facing the sunrise, which is that way. When these people died, they were usually buried together with their family and also above their ancestor. And an interesting thing is you can also kind of guess their social status based on their mantle, their jewelry, and all the possessions that were also in the tomb.
While the people buried in Cahuachi was probably important people, those buried here in Chauchilla was most likely normal people who are still preserved to this day thanks to the arid climate of the Peruvian desert. The next Nazcan archaeological site is in some ways the most impressive since it still works to this day. No, it's not just any simple aqueducts like this, but more like this. In fact, many of them with their curious spiral shapes. We are in the Aquaduct of Cantalloc. This is a very interesting archaeological site near Nazca. Let's see some incredible feat of engineering by the ancient Nazca people. We are like in the middle of a dry desert, but there is a running clear water right underneath. It's insane! There were more than 40 aqueducts built in this area by the Nazca people, and water flows through them all year round. This aqueduct system was built by the Nazca people before the time of the Inca Empire. And thanks to this water, they could irrigate their lands and grew so many different types of crops in this dry desert. It's impressive. And the most impressive thing is, this aqueduct system that was built hundreds of years ago are still being used today to irrigate the lands. So, we learned that the Nazca people built those chimneys above the aqueduct to ensure that they can do maintenance on the aqueduct itself, and also to ensure that there is a uniform flow of water inside the aqueduct to prevent sedimentation or some debris inside the aqueduct. It's ingenious, these people. We finished our trip around Nazca understanding a little bit more about this great yet enigmatic civilization through the imprint they left on the modern day world. And that was our trip in Nazca, place full of history and mystery. There are so many interesting places to visit. Do not only go to see the Nazca lines, but also visit the other interesting archaeological sites. Anyway, we're gonna continue with our journey. We'll move on to our next destination. We'll see you in the next video. And don't forget to subscribe.